Hello, hello, my fellow geeks. Welcome to episode number 58 of the Indian AvGeek. My name is Vishal Mehra. Happy New Year, everyone. We are starting 2026 at cruising altitude with a guest who did not just enter the aviation industry, he practically hacked it as a child. Picture a young boy on a flight between New York and Lebanon, frequently sneaking out of his seat in coach to spy on the fancy meals and lie flat beds in first class. Fast forward a couple of decades, and he is not just looking at those seats, he's helping decide where they go and how you pay for them. He's a Cornell Hotel School alum who cut his teeth at Hilton and Marriott before taking the airline world by storm at Continental and United. He's the architect behind the massive Aeroplan relaunch and holds patents for everything from check-in technology to airline seating systems. Today, he serves as the Executive Vice President and Chief Operations Officer at Air Canada. Please welcome the man who turned spying on first class into a career leading Canada's flag carrier, Mark Nasr. Welcome to the Indian AvGeek, Mark.
Oh, it's outstanding to be here. Thank you so much, Shal.
It's absolutely my pleasure to host you, Mark. How did you and aviation happen?
Oh, goodness. Growing up, I lived all around the world because of my parents' work. And so air travel was a part of life, family in different places or moving to a new country, etc. I was always fascinated, very curious by all parts of travel, airlines, hotels, etc. How I came to be in the airline industry. So I started working when I was 14 in hotels, went to a hospitality school. And whilst at school, I started a small business, and that had me traveling a lot. I was on a Star Alliance round the world ticket, and I had some extra mileage that was going to go unused. So I decided to add a couple of flights because it was effectively free, included in the ticket. And I happened to have the blessing of being seated next to a fellow named Jim Summerford, who was the Continental Airlines executive who ran the EMEA operation and sales. And one thing led to another, and I found myself in 2006 as part of Continental's first class of interns since 9/11. And the rest is history.
Wow, what a story. On the education bit, Mark, as part of my research for our chat, I did see your interview with Brian last year on the Skift forum, or I think just the year before, actually. And I got to know about your extensive interest in airline food.
So there was an embarrassing moment. So imagine the first class, first year, everyone showing up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and probably quite concerned with making a positive impression on their fellow student and the professor. It was hospitality operations. I remember the class, HADM 105. And the professor opened up with her background, and it was a very passionate presentation. And then she ended that segment by saying, "Well, what are you passionate about?" And there's a room of 60 students, and there was you could hear a pin drop in the room. And of course, me being me, sitting in the front row of the class, I put up my hand and I said, "Well, I'm passionate about airline food." And people didn't even bother to try to hold back the snickering. And that story still sticks with me today.
Makes you a perfect fit for this podcast, Mark. Long live the geeks. And speaking on geeks, the AvGeek community knows you as the architect of the new Aeroplan and a product guy. In May, you took over as the COO of Air Canada. How has the transition been from selling the dream to delivering the reality? Does looking at the airline through an operational lens change how you view the product decisions you've made previously?
One of the things I love about our industry is that no matter what division you're in, there are usually dozens of subspecialties. So, for example, in my previous role, everything from QA engineers in the IT world all the way to the people that do our video editing and production in the brand world. These are very specific expertise. And in the operations world, there are many, many dozens more than I've ever had exposure to. And learning about all of those capabilities, the expertise, the experience that goes into it, the different considerations required to whether it's maintain an aircraft or it's operate a turn at a gate or whatever it might be, is just fascinating. This is the best job I've had so far in my career, without a doubt. And I think, there's many reasons why. The principal reason, though, is I'm actually in many ways getting back to my roots in hospitality. And one of the first things you learn in the hotel industry is the importance of understanding what's going on in the operation and being connected at all levels to the front line that's delivering the product. And in this current role as COO, I have unlimited opportunities really to meet with our people, to understand their ideas, their concerns, and know what's on their mind, and then use that along with the rest of our senior leadership team to inform the decisions we make, both tactical as well as strategic.
All right. On Aeroplan, I must add, I love the program. We have a bank here in India which lets us convert the
Access.
points to yes, absolutely. And I've enjoyed the benefits of the program. Loyalty programs now drive significant margin for the industry, for airlines, right? And Aeroplan, if you look at it, is a standalone profit center. How does that commercial reality influence your operational priorities? For example, when you're deciding between OTP and maximizing revenue per flight, how much does your loyalty program performance factor into that calculus?
Yeah. So from an operational perspective, not as much in terms of how we run the operation. We certainly have elevated service levels for our most commercially critical customers, and there's an operational element to that. We have a concierge program that delivers an amazing product. There's obviously a status kind of tiering to that, and then whenever we have scarce resources, let's say an upgrade standby list or a rebooking, a reseating algorithm, loyalty plays a role in how we make those prioritization decisions. But really, the loyalty business is more directly connected to our network planning team and our revenue management team. And they will consider, for example, our presence in a spoke city and our ability to attract and acquire credit card holders, which is something you're hearing a lot about from the US carriers now. They will consider the demand for redeeming points as a key factor in leisure routes and the frequency and the capacity, the leisure routes we offer, et cetera. So that happens between the two commercial teams, between loyalty and the rest of the revenue team. And then ultimately, it comes on the operations, and we seek to deliver across the board.
Of course, you seek to deliver across the board, but I mean, has there been any, any instances where you've had to favor one over the other?
Oh, of course, yeah. So we have what we call the integrated planning process. And what happens is network planning designs an initial schedule, and then the two teams meet, and we start off with an objective oriented set of outcomes. So what OTP, what on-time performance do we want? What completion factor do we think is a minimum level of appropriate quality to deliver, et cetera, et cetera. And then we work together on adjustments to our schedule that allow us to work backwards in terms of achieving those operational outcomes. But then we can also push on any specific commercial objectives we have. So let me just give you an example. Let's say there's a set of connecting traffic we very much want to focus on. Where we can look at specific flight times for the inbounds and the outbounds, let's say a flight coming in from the US and then going out to Europe or to Asia Pacific. And we might make things all the way down to 5 and 10-minute adjustments so that we can have the most compelling schedule. And we'll put extra operational resources so that we can deliver that product reliably. But then maybe we'll put some slack or we'll make some other changes to compensate for that elsewhere. So it's a very dynamic process. There's several backs and forths that happen in each round of creating kind of the winter schedule and the summer schedule. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is balance both things. I mean, what's great about Air Canada is we're oriented around the profit and loss outcome. We're not oriented around just a revenue outcome or the operational quality outcome, et cetera. And so when we look at these kinds of things, we make decisions that get us to an optimal profitability, not decisions that just result in the highest revenue, but perhaps, with operational costs that are buried in or result in great reliability, but then subpar asset utilization, or poor connecting flows or the other things we need to worry about commercially.
You've been COO for about 8 months now. What were the first three operational metrics or processes you focused on changing and why? At the same time, what's the biggest operational surprise you encountered coming from the commercial side?
Sure. Well, the first metric I started thinking about was coworker engagement. I mean, look, we are fundamentally a people power business, and Gordon Bethune used to say, "You can't make a mechanic turn their wrench any quicker. They need to want to," and that's entirely true, right? And ultimately, the entire operation becomes healthier and happier to the extent to which we have folks that feel that they can bring their best selves to work. And we have an environment where even people are able to work politely and professionally together. Like there's a lot of pressure in the operations. And you know what's interesting? It's not enough just to care. I mean, I remember one of our captains came by and visit me, and he told me a story of getting very, very frustrated at our station operations control. They were both trying to achieve a good outcome for Air Canada. One was trying to achieve an on-time departure, and the other was trying to make sure that the aircraft was there for some connecting customers. So they all had the right intentions, right? But if you don't have a good atmosphere, a really good culture, if you're not providing the right tools for collaboration and communication, then even two people trying to do the right thing, and both caring about the company can cause some friction. So it shows you how important that is. So the first thing when I arrived is I said, okay, where are our people? How do they feel? Do we have the right information and metrics to track that? Do we need to develop that? So that's a key thing. Obviously, safety is paramount and something we focus on extensively. And quite candidly, my exposure to safety before was having run IT and so cybersecurity. There's obviously a safety function in there if you think of it in that respect. But this is my first time having accountability and oversight for physical security and safety, and something that I wanted to learn as much about as quickly as possible. So sitting down with our safety teams, visiting the ramp. We have a safety ambassador program, and of course, I have reporting to me our ops manager, who has actual legal and regulatory responsibility alongside the overall responsibility and moral imperative that it is for all of us here at the airline. So that was number two. And then third was on-time performance. And we've been on a journey the last 3, 4 years. Historically, we've been a laggard in our geography on-time performance. And there's been a concerted effort now for several years to improve. We have improved, but we're still, I would say, kind of middle to later innings as to where we need to be. And sorry, I'm not quite sure what the cricket analogy is, so I gave the baseball analogy. But anyway, yeah. Do you guys have innings as well? Is cricket innings or is it matches,
Yeah,
tests? What exactly is it?
yes, absolutely, Mark. So in the Test cricket, which is the pinnacle of our sport, which and by the way, which runs over 5 days, there are two innings. So every team gets two innings to bat and two innings to bowl.
Okay, there we go. So innings works here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to see how Canadian airlines are now aligning. You have, of course, you're part of the Star Alliance. WestJet is increasingly aligning with SkyTeam, and Porter, with their famous glassware, is increasingly aligning with OneWorld. Looking at Star Alliance, Air Canada now has 40 odd partners, including Star and Codeshare.
I think Aeroplan's up to 48, if I actually 49 as of last week, I believe, although I'm a little rusty. And then I
Wow.
want to say we have 127 interline ticket and baggage partners. But again, I'm a little rusty now. I've been about 8 months out of that area.
Wow. Now, my question mark: does this increase operational complexity? You're coordinating schedules, managing connections, ensuring consistent service standards, like you were just talking about, not just across your own network, but also across partner networks. I'm just curious to understand at what point does alliance complexity becomes an operational liability rather than an asset? How do you operationally manage all these partnerships?
It adds complexity. It adds significant complexity, but it adds disproportionate value. And so we're very proud of our portfolio of partnerships. Of course, we were a founding member of Star Alliance. Rumor has it actually it was one of our predecessors, a retired Air Canada executive that might have even suggested the idea originally to our founding members. Um, now we don't constrain ourselves with just the alliance. We have an outstanding relationship with Emirates, for example, and one that was just renewed and extended, which is very important for the South Asian market and other elements. We can work on them, not just servicing customers, but also even cargo. And then we've got partnerships with regional carriers. Canada is a very large country that's very sparsely populated, and so serving very small communities in the Arctic. We have some very important partnerships, to provide true national connectivity there. So we have a rich partnership portfolio. Now, in terms of the complexity, this is really where technology becomes disproportionately important to be able to manage it. Our choice of reservation system, to the extent to which we're integrated with these other airlines. But I think what you'll find is the largest network carriers, they have some special partnerships, which are now typically in the form of joint ventures, much deeper relationships where the level of coordination and customer servicing is higher. And for us, that would be the United, the Lufthansa Group. Primarily, I would even add in Emirates, where we have disproportionate high levels of coordination and collaboration for customer support and servicing the experience there. And then we have many other partners where we add value to them and they add value to us, and it's good. But it's more of a templated approach from that perspective.
All right. You've just reinstated the code share with Air India. For a long time, the strategy seemed to be compete hard on the direct Canada India flows. Does this code share signal a shift towards cooperating on domestic India feed while competing on the long haul leg? Or is this a broader Star Alliance realignment?
Look, I think I'm actually strongly convicted that India is the most dynamic nation on earth right now. And along with that dynamism and all of that growth and even more future potential, that should be reflected in the airlines. You've got Indigo, you've got Air India, and then some other operators. Those airlines have ambitious plans to be a part of the country's broader strategy. I think that anybody that believes that there isn't going to be growth or it can somehow be constrained doesn't understand the market and doesn't understand the capabilities and ambitions of the Indian people and the Indian government. So we're fully prepared and understand that there is going to be growth. There's huge order books, and one could argue that Indian airlines are disproportionately small compared to where they should be, given again, the nation, its capabilities, and its people and its economy. But we are very proud of our history in India. We're very proud that we have a portfolio of nonstop Atlantic services. And we want to be able to connect with the entire country. We want to be able to work with local partners. So I would tell you the answer is actually both. I think it is entirely possible to work with and collaborate with partners for South Asia, with India in particular. And I think it is also fully possible, given the growth in the market, that the national carriers, will have their own business strategies and their own additional opportunities all around the world.
Is it tricky to collaborate and compete at the same time, especially if you're part of the same alliance?
Well, we do it with several carriers actually.
Yeah.
There's obviously limits. As I said, we have different types of relationships with different carriers, but the key thing is that we can both add value to one another. And Air Canada has tremendous value it can add to many airlines around the world. Canada, despite being a smaller market population-wise, has a wealthy and very large base of international travelers, much larger than the country's population would suggest. Canada has an incredibly vibrant immigrant diaspora from all around the world, in particular India. Literally millions at this point of people of South Asian descent, within Canada. Canada has some of the best schools in the world and is very much open for international education. Canada has critical minerals and resources and energy, which the developing world, the whole world needs. And so what we offer is a very loyal, large base of premium customers, a vibrant and diverse diaspora of many different kinds of immigrants, connectivity throughout North America through our hubs, and Aeroplan as a powerful distribution and loyalty platform. That's value we can provide to our partners, and then value obviously that we can receive from our partners is connectivity regionally and domestically, value from their own frequent flyer programs. So I would say yes, absolutely we can, we have, we do. Sometimes some conversations are more complicated than others, more sensitive. We have an amazing alliances team that manages that.
I must compliment that, I've seen a couple of times that I've gotten better rates for redemption rates for Air India Metal on Aeroplan than on Maharaja Club. And that is feedback that I've given to Maharaja Club as well. And they said they are working on it. So, but till then, we will we'll try and maximize our value. What's the state of your Indian operations right now, Mark? What's the significance of the market? You just, of course, spoke about it, how India as a market is very important, but what's the state of your operations right now? Especially compared to your overall international portfolio?
Sure. Well, just on the previous note, Vishal, I should say that's not intended, and it happens both ways sometimes. I mean, I think one of the challenges and somewhere that Star Alliance really needs to move faster, candidly, is modernizing the way that the interline award availability and structures work. If you think about it, Star Alliance, as well as the other alliances, quite candidly, have the same value proposition, core value proposition that Star Alliance started in 1997 with much the same technology. And that's true of One World, it's true of SkyTeam. But many carriers have gone to dynamic pricing, additional expanded inventory, other richness in their program. Some airline partners are working on it. We have a project underway with United right now to do just that. But the alliance concept needs to be modernized. So sometimes those kind of pricing inversions happen. They happen both ways, I can assure you. But they're unintentional. Of course, though, it will occasionally come to the benefit of some, as you mentioned. So what's Air Canada in India state? Well, first of all, we've got a fantastic country manager. We've got a local team. We're very proud of our presence. We fly nonstop services from Toronto and Montreal to New Delhi, as well as a service that has a stop to Mumbai. The challenge we have is Russian overflight. And if Russian overflight was open, we would have more services. We had a highly popular Delhi-Vancouver service that was doing very, very well. It beat all of our expectations that we had to suspend because we couldn't reliably operate it. I don't lead network planning, but another guy named Mark does as well. And if he were here, I'm sure he would tell you about ambitions we have even beyond that, and we're comfortable. I will tell you something that is gobsmacking. This winter, there is more daily traffic going between Canada and India than any other overseas country from Canada. I'm talking the United Kingdom. I'm talking France. Think of Hong Kong. Think of all the
Except
colonial.
US.
Sorry?
Except
Except you
US.
overseas, except US.
Yeah.
So think of the giant established bases of business and leisure and friends and relatives and all of the things you can possibly imagine. And I don't mean like theoretically this is the market demand. I mean literally that is what is happening. So it's a huge market. It's still growing. I talked about immigration, about education, et cetera. And unfortunately, we have these artificial constraints right now, due to security, geopolitics, other challenges, which affect us. And then, of course, we have services to Dubai, and then via Dubai, even via Europe, we have many connections to South Asia.
So we will talk about Toronto, Mumbai in a bit. But I'm just curious if Vancouver Delhi flight could have done via a one stop somewhere.
Services with a stop just aren't the same as it. Nothing beats a nonstop. And if we are going to stop, then we have a rich set of partners, and we can do that in Europe, et cetera. India is so strategically important. We've chosen obviously to maintain the links that we have, but
Right.
nothing beats a nonstop.
And your yields will also get affected, right?
Nothing beats a nonstop, whether it's
Right.
cost structure or it's on the revenue side. Nothing beats a nonstop.
What about cargo? Is that also critical for Air Canada?
Yeah, for sure. Look, again, it goes again with Russian overflight and the kinds of aircraft that we have today. The trade-off is cargo or weight restrictions on the number of seats that we can sell. But there's demand from India. Goes back to it being the most vibrant economy in the world, and so you see it on the customer side. You see it, of course, on the freight side as well.
Right. Nothing beats a non-stop, like you said, Mark. So let's
Although
talk.
it's about to come to the Qantas is about to test the limits of that. We'll see at
Project
21,
Sunrise.
22 hours. But
Yeah, that'll be
yeah.
interesting.
Nothing beats a non stop. Like you said, Mark. Toronto, Mumbai is particularly interesting. You launched it non stop in October 2024 on the LR. But by winter 25-26, it shifted to Delhi via Heathrow, and you are on Dash 8s, 787 Dash 8s. That's operationally complex, selling Toronto, London, and then London, Mumbai, or also Toronto, Mumbai, Toronto. What drove that decision to do one stop? Was it fleet availability, sixth freedom opportunity from London, or demand patterns? Tell me about that.
Fleet and mission capability and the ability to look. What we don't want to do is we don't want to make a promise to a customer and then not be able to consistently deliver on that promise. And so, whether it's weather that can affect that, winds, or, quite candidly, the security and geopolitical situation is uh, has not necessarily been stable. And you've seen it in South Asia, you've seen it in the Middle East. All of those situations have also affected airspace rights access, where we believe we can consistently and reliably fly safely. And so all these things go into our decision-making criteria as to whether we're going to be able to reliably and from a cost feasible standpoint have consistent nonstop service. In a world where those factors didn't exist, or where Russian overflight was there, or we had, aircraft with more range capability, for example, a 777X and A350-1000, these are just different fleet types that have different capabilities from what we have today. But yeah, that's where we are as a result.
Slightly long question coming up, Mark, so please bear with me. But before I do that, just a quick reminder to the 90% of our listeners who listen to the show regularly but do not subscribe to it yet. Please do press the follow subscribe button on your podcast app. Back to you now, Mark. Recently, Ben Smith, your ex boss, who's now the CEO of Air France KLM, and your Star Alliance partner, Karsten Spohr, who's the CEO of Lufthansa, gave a rare joint interview. Excuse me, gave a rare joint interview to some European publications, basically complaining about Gulf based airlines as well as Turkish Airlines and the unfair support these airlines enjoy. They mentioned how the unfettered and open access to EU skies is incorrect. In their remarks, Ben Smith said And he compared 2 decades of airline growth. He said Gulf and Turkish Airlines have expanded by 1,000% and 756%, respectively, while in the same period, Air France and Lufthansa have grown by 14 and 16%, underscoring the extraordinary growth fueled by regulatory advantages and fiscal support that these carriers enjoy. I'm not going to ask you to comment on what they said. You are not here representing them, obviously. Lufthansa, of course, is your Star Alliance partner, is your close Star Alliance partner, if I may say that. But how do you balance operational complexity, longer routing, fuel costs, so on and so forth, with competitive pricing in a market where Middle Eastern carriers offer one stop alternatives at lower prices?
We've got a compelling product connecting North America and India, and we do well. And our market results reflect the fact that Canadians of South Asian descent, Americans, many South Asians as well, want the Air Canada product, are willing to purchase the Air Canada product, seek it out. I think that kind of speaks for itself. We live in a world now where I think a lot of the growth is coming from the eastern part of the world and the global south, as some say as well. I think it's incumbent on any airline that wants to be a global airline to figure out how to have the right mix of a product and a schedule, a service that they're providing, and a cost structure to be able to do just that. And that's what we're focused on. We're growing now again, and we have 93 brand new planes on order. We strongly believe that there's a market around the world. If you just look at kind of that general part of the world, we now have service to Manila, to Singapore, to Bangkok. We're very proud. Those are doing very well for us. Actually, a lot of South Asian connections over Singapore, believe it or not, for us. And of course, we've got our services to the Gulf, to the Levant, to South Asia, and to Africa, to Northern Africa. And so I would say that we find that we're able to compete.
All right. I've read that your Sixth Freedom revenues grew 12% year over year in Q1 of 2025. For India routes specifically, how much of your passenger mix is truly India-Canada point-to-point versus US-India, which can be via Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver? Sometime back, you had said that Canada can be a strong gateway to US for some of your international markets, and I'm assuming India would have been part of that calculation. What's the profitability difference, Mark? Is Sixth Freedom traffic more or less profitable for you than local O&D traffic?
Well, other than for Latin America going to North America, Canada is the most perfect connect point for the United States geographically, facilities-wise, process, and we think culturally on all counts. So what does Canada have? Well, first of all, the geography is most important. If you're going from the United States or even a lot of Latin America to Asia, you're overflying Vancouver. And if you're going to Europe, EMEA, other than Southern Africa, you're overflying Toronto or Montreal. So number one, it's on the way anyway and less circuitous than a lot of the other global connecting complexes that exist. Number two, we can offer a full-on international connection experience coming out of the US, going abroad, where you simply just go right downstairs. You don't even have a security check. Your baggage transfers, you're under one roof. You don't have to change terminals. You don't have to take a train. You don't have to go outside, et cetera, et cetera. If you're going to the United States, of course, you can pre-clear customs immigration and you land domestically, which not just means it's much more convenient, but it also means that we can get you to airports that no other foreign carrier can. We can get you to Reagan National. We can get you to LaGuardia, in addition to the major international hubs in the United States. Number three, Canada's diverse multicultural landscape means we speak more languages, we can service people, and we can support them in a way that's, I think, unmatched anywhere in the world. And then pardon me, number four, just the network that Air Canada has built over time means we connect most cities. And what we don't have, we seek to add in the future. So the connection experience going to and from the United States, and I'd say even if you're going to Latin America, the issue is connecting in the United States, you have to have a full visa and you have to enter the United States and exit it on each leg of your journey. So, just thinking through, for example, the backlog or the waiting period that exists, if you're, let's say, someone in New Delhi and you'd like to go to Mexico City, you can do so without obtaining a US visa. And again, with a very simple, easy transit process in Toronto or in Montreal. So we've got an incredible transit product. In fact, actually, I don't think we do nearly enough really to tell the story of that. We should be doing a lot more and communicating that to the travel trade, to potential customers around the world. The traffic is very strong. It's growing very quickly. My coworker, Mark Nasr, has spoke about it many times. I'm not going to get into details here. Suffice it to say, we have a sophisticated revenue management operation. And so whatever traffic we take, it's traffic that we believe has the appropriate yield, given the demand situation to be in our aircraft. And one of the considerations we look at, of course, is foreign currency. We look at the value of the entire itinerary. We have LOPAs that are built for transit traffic. So that's an advantage we have, I would say, as compared to many of the European carriers. They have LOPAs that are not built as well as Air Canada's are. Certainly, some of the U.S. carriers, some of them, for international transit traffic.
You are currently using 777-200 LRs. You are using 787-8s and -9 on India routes. This year, you'll start receiving the -10s, about 18 aircraft through 2027. The -10s carry 338 passengers versus -9's 300, and of course offer 30% more business class seats and 25% more cargo capacity. Will some of these specifically be used for India expansion?
The -10 is going to be an incredible aircraft for us. And Boeing has done a lot since the initial -10s were introduced to extend the range. So now, for example, we can operate Vancouver across to the Northern Pacific, to Northern Asia, which would have been difficult to do before. But the range that's required, especially in a Russian overflight being restricted era, means that it's not quite likely that the -10s will make their way to India. We're looking forward to it. It's going to have a brand new product, nose to tail, in all cabins, brand new entertainment systems, and of course, much larger premium cabins than today. We're going to go from 30 to 42 J seats, for example, in the business class cabin suites. We're going to have, it's going to be a fantastic experience.
And you're about to get those XLRs also. Must be an exciting time. Right here in India, Indigo just received their first XLR, which would be operating Delhi Athens and Mumbai Athens. What's the minimum yield and load factor threshold for a secondary city or a route which is currently unprofitable using, let's say, a 787-8 configuration, but which the A321 XLR can operate profitably?
Well, obviously the two things go hand in glove, yield and load factor in the mix. And there's some markets will operate the XLR2 that will have very, very healthy yields. And there'll be other markets where it's more of a leisure play. The yields will be good. But from a demand perspective, we'll be in a very good position. I tell you, the interesting thing about the XLR for us is it's going to be an aircraft that has utility in many different circumstances. So I'll give you a few examples. We'll be able to operate them on a transcontinental basis in North America to be able to have that premium flatbed product up front and have connectivity to our international hubs. So, for example, imagine from a San Francisco or a Los Angeles to Toronto, to provide an end-to-end premium Sixth Freedom experience. We'll be able to use them to Vancouver and Calgary during off-peak times and have a wide-body product experience with a narrow-body capacity. We can't do that today. During the winter, we'll be able to operate them to markets in Europe that before would have been just seasonal for us. and either make it possible or significantly increase the profitability that comes from those markets. And of course, in the summer, we'll be able to use it to fly to tier 2, tier 3 destinations from a demand perspective. By the way, I hate saying that because these are very much tier 1 destinations. They're just maybe tier 2 or tier 3 demand strength city pairs. So we'll be able to do that. So you've seen we've announced Montreal to Berlin. We've announced Palma to Mallorca. Although actually, interesting story, Palma's done so well that we just changed it to a 787. There's a little bit of a payload performance issue with the XLR, probably something we can manage, but it's very popular. So that's actually going to have a 787. You would have seen Nantes in France. It's an incredible place. It's the gateway to Brittany. Or if you're going to Normandy, it's a place you can go to as well. Just an amazing, amazing destination, part of the country which is explored less often for those that visit France compared to the Côte d'Azur or to the Paris area. Yeah, lots of things that our planning team will be able to do with that aircraft from an operations perspective. We're focused, first of all, on inducting them. God willing, we're supposed to get our first in January, which already had several delays. It now looks like it might be a little later than that, but we're going to get the plane. We've got to have it certified by Transport Canada because it will be the first XLRs in Canada. We've got to do ETOPS training for our pilots because it's going to be obviously the 320, 321 base of pilots, and they're going to need to be ETOPS trained. So that's an operational consideration. And then, of course, it's a brand new seating product. And it'll be the first time our flight attendants have delivered a wide body long haul experience on a narrow body galley and single aisle aircraft. So we also have to make sure that we've optimized the galley planning and the service flows to support our flight attendants for success. So there's a lot of things we need to do operationally to be ready for the aircraft.
Very exciting. And my next question, Mark, was actually on the Palma route itself. I know there's been a lot of discussion on XLR's range capabilities. You just said that you have swapped it to Dreamliner because of the unexpected and much higher demand that you got on the Palma route. Is that right?
I'll say, the two things have gone together. We've got some performance concerns at this point, given we don't fly the aircraft yet. It's difficult to make a judgment because we get performance data from Airbus. We model out how high we think the temperatures are going to be, how hot it's going to be, several other considerations. We also fall under different regulatory regimes from the U.S. carriers. So the way, for example, we need to handle different operational situations that can happen. And that all goes to determining exactly what performance specifications, runway length we're going to need. So you kind of have the operational considerations. I'll just say it's borderline, right? And then on the demand side, it's a popular destination. I think we're going to do very, very well in it. So you can see we obviously have the confidence, so much confidence that we've said, you know what, why don't we upgauge it? And then we'll solve everything in the fullness of time here.
Okay, my last question on the XLR, Mark. I've read how Air Canada is hungry for more range in the narrow body segment. Is this desire driven by a need to crack open secondary European cities like the Palma experiment you have done? You were talking about Berlin from Montreal and Toronto. Or is it more about having a winter warhorse, that can do South America efficiently when European demand drops?
So look, if you were going to start an airline and you could control the world for Canada, you would have A220-300s, you'd have A321XLRs, and you'd have 787-9s. And those are just the perfect sets of aircraft for us that allow us to do multiple kinds of missions with hitting on different parts of our strategy. The 220 allows us to build a very high quality Sixth Freedom franchise and service a lot of the second tier of ODs in Canada efficiently with an amazing product. The XLR allows us to do the premium transcon, so we can move them to certain parts of Latin America and the Caribbean in the winter. We can use them for larger European routes in the winter and for secondary, tertiary routes in the summer. It can also allow us to start a market with lower risk and then, graduate it to a wide body, once we know more. And of course, the 789 is just a great all-around aircraft for us to do our longer haul missions and provide, again, another premium great experience. So three aircraft, it's no surprise, of the fact that we're going to end up with a fleet of at least 65 A220-300s. We've got, sorry, what is it? 32 787-9s. Is it 32? I always forget the number. We just took delivery of three more. And then of course our order book for the XLRs. So yeah.
I'm so tempted to ask you right now about 220-500s.
Yeah. So look, what I would tell you is our first focus is making sure that we can get to the level of quality and reliability with the A220 family that exists with other products. And today, there's still work by Airbus to get there. The Pratt& Whitney geared turbofan engines, that's been very well covered. I know, especially in India. You can go to any major Indian airport and you'll see some of the consequences of that situation on the Neo family with the 1100s. On the 1500s, on the 220s, it's been a challenge as well. We've worked very closely with Pratt. We're in a reasonably good space. We don't have a single 220 grounded right now due to GTF issues. At the peak, we had 8 or 9 of the types that were grounded. So I could say we have seen progress and certainly some support from Pratt& Whitney. But on the airframe side, there is still work to do. So if you ask me about the A220-500, my answer to you is the A220-300. Let's make sure that we get the level of reliability that the industry needs. The aircraft family is an incredible aircraft. So when things go well, the cost performance and the comfort, the operating cost performance and the comfort that it delivers with the range capabilities, it's unmatched. And there are many geographies and many different strategies in the world that would benefit tremendously from the A220 family. Where we are not in an acceptable position is the dispatch reliability and some of the particularities about how we maintain the aircraft. To my very good friends at Airbus, as I told them as recently as last week, when I hear A220-500, I think A220-300 Prime. And then, in the fullness of time here, we can get to the 500, which also has a lot of potential.
You introduced premium economy on India flights during peak season. 60% of India Canada passengers are Indian nationals, many VFR or students, traditionally price sensitive segments. But you're also targeting business travelers and diaspora with higher willingness to pay. What's your premium cabin load factor target for India, Mark? And I know you've mentioned earlier how phenomenal the India routes have done, but if you can elaborate.
I appreciate you trying. I'm not going to break out any individual route performance or statistics, and even if I knew, I would still defer to our chief commercial officer on what he wants to share. But suffice it to say, as I said, India is a very important franchise, strategically critical for us, and one we intend on staying focused on.
All right. Air Canada has mentioned plans to add 2 new Indian destinations by 2030. That's what I've read. I know the Russian airspace restrictions have been a big dampener, as well as some issues in our neighborhood. Given your current footprint in India, which is Delhi and Mumbai, and considering airport infra or demand patterns and sixth freedom potential, what cities are on your shortlist, Mark? Are you looking at Bangalore? Are you looking at Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Amritsar? What would you look at, Mark?
It's interesting because, as I said, there's a very large Indian community, part of the Indian diaspora in Canada, and it's not from one place. Okay. So obviously, we've got Punjabis, we've got Sikhs, we've got folks from actually really all over the country, from South India. And there's a lot of interest in having more service from Canada to different regions within India for sure. I mean, look, I think you mentioned the major business centers where most of the activity is happening, especially in all the commerce and trade, the digital work that happens between the two countries and really between North America, if you think about the Sixth Freedom strategy. I think particularly the first part of your list, would have some relevance, but Russian overflight, again, is a very significant consideration. There's also some questions about infrastructure being ready, because obviously there's a lot of growth happening within the country as well. Russian overflight is a key challenge for us.
The first part of that list had Bangalore and Hyderabad. Just saying. In August 2025, Air Canada faced its first flight attendant strike in 40 years. 4-day disruption. I think it affected more than 500,000 passengers. The issue was unpaid work. You had become the COO just 2 months before that. Quite a honeymoon period. Looking back, what did that experience teach you about the intersection of labor relations, operational resilience, and even customer trust?
Well, for sure. Well, look, thank you for the question. We're our nation's flag carrier. And when we succeed, the entire country succeeds, even those who are not our customers. And when we don't, the implications can go far beyond our four walls. And clearly, the situation that occurred in mid-August was incredibly difficult for our customers, for our stakeholders, for all of our people, including our 10,300 flight attendants and their families. It was not a bright chapter, that's for sure. We were able to ultimately reach a deal with the union that represents our flight attendants. And I will say, in September, we led North America in on-time performance. We were top tier, as well as we had NPS customer satisfaction scores that were up significantly year over year. So it speaks to the professionalism of our flight attendants and all of our coworkers, quite candidly, and how the whole team rallied together after those very difficult days. What did I learn through the process? I mean, look, it was a very strong reinforcement of the themes we began the interview about. What was that first metric I looked at, right? The criticality of communications, of engagement with our people, of them understanding our business strategy, of us being able to learn from them and make decisions based on their input and guidance and advice. So the reinforcement of that was critical. Doing the right thing and taking care of our customers that we disrupted without any pressure from the regulators or anybody else. We proactively decided to cover reasonable expenses, lodging, meals, ground transportation, to reimburse customers for tickets that they purchased on other airlines if we weren't able to rebook them. We created a dashboard that showed in near real time our startup post the strike being over, and then we showed how many customer claims we received, what percentage we've answered, and the average time it took to respond. Full, absolute transparency to our customers. It's easy to talk about these things in a business school lecture. It's harder to implement them, especially when the situation is difficult. But at the end of the day, it's when you do the right thing, that's the right thing to do. We can't, as a company, do well without doing good in the communities we serve. Those were the principal lessons. It was a very difficult time. And of course, we hope and seek, to not be in that kind of situation again.
I want to talk quickly about Rouge. You're moving all 737 Maxes to Rouge in the next 2 years, 2.5 years.
1 year. The next
In
1
1 year.
year.
Wow.
The team has a mission. 14 months, if we want to be precise about it. 1 year.
Wow. Okay. And the 220s and the XLRs, of course, and the wide bodies are mainline fleet. Now, this is creating a proper brand fleet separation, but I would assume, would this create some operational complexity also in terms of crew training, maintenance bases, scheduling? I'm just wondering, as the COO, what's the operational efficiency gain from this separation you are getting versus the cost of running essentially two airlines?
The transition operationally will be complex. However, once the transition is complete, we will be in a superior operational position and I would say, a step change customer value proposition, and also thus flight attendant experience as a result of it. So, what do I mean by that? Well, we will first of all be able to establish common customer experience and common LOPAs for each of the fleet types. We will have 321 COs, they will be uniform. We will have XLRs, they will be uniform. We will have, of course, the 220s, they already are uniform. And then over at Rouge, we'll have one LOPA with one type, even actually with one subtype, that will have equivalent operational capabilities, customer experience, et cetera, et cetera. So our people, both our coworkers as well as our customers, will know what to expect. We'll be able to reliably, consistently deliver on it. And even when we need to do things like substitutions and fin number or aircraft changes on the day of departure, et cetera, to manage the operations, those will be either completely opaque or much less impactful than it is today. Today, we're operating, I mean, just on the 321 COs alone, we're operating at mainline 3 different LOPAs. At Rouge, we're operating a LOPA. So we've got 4 or 5 different LOPAs of 321 COs just right now. So you can imagine the complexities and the surprises that can bring. So the transition is difficult. We need to open a Rouge base in Vancouver. We need to move pilots, or move the operating certificate rather, for each of the aircraft, re-register them. We need to do the full renovations of all of the aircraft that are at Rouge. Some are going to be retired, the 319s. There's a lot of work to happen here, tech ops, flight ops, in-flight, to support this, the Rouge team. But once it's done, we'll be in a far better position.
And best wishes to do all of that in 14 months, Mark. My last question to you, and this is something I ask everybody. If you have any recommendations in terms of podcasts that you listen to, any books that you've enjoyed reading, that you'd like to tell our listeners.
No, for sure. I'll tell you, I've got 2 books on my reading list right now that I haven't read yet. But just one second, just actually bringing it up here. So one is called Everybody Matters. And it was something that was suggested to me, obviously, given my goals for our frontline culture and engagement with our people. So that's on my holidays reading list coming up here. And the second one is called Fierce Intimacy, which is just one that was recommended to me through some personal coaching and development that I've been doing that touches both my business and my personal life. So I haven't read them yet. Those are the next 2 on my list to read. And then in terms of podcasts, well, obviously, other than yours truly here, or you, I guess, I would recommend the Air Current, which I'm sure you know very well. But it's an outstanding podcast for the industry there, by 3 of the most knowledgeable analysts and reporters, I'd say, that we have here in North America.
Yeah, I think Air Current is John's website. The podcast is the Air Show that you're
Oh, the Air Show, the Air
referencing.
Show. Sorry, yeah, of course, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've got it. I've got it.
What an amazing conversation, Mark. Wishing you a great 2026 ahead.
It's a sincere pleasure. Vishal, thank you so much for having me. And thank you very much to all of our customers and stakeholders in India. Can't wait till I'm there next in a couple months here.
Mark, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on to kick off our 2026 season. Thank you for the deep dive into Air Canada's roadmap, the reality of the Indian market, and for proving that hospitality is not just for hotels. Next Sunday, the Indian Ad Geeks episode 17 will feature Anand Sharma from Matter of Form. Listen out for that. As for the Indian AvGeek, we will return in a fortnight with another global guest. For now, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode of the Indian AvGeek with your fellow AvGeeks. Mark is not active on X, but you will find me everywhere as at Vishal Mehra happy to have your feedback. With that, keep your tray tables up, your seatbelts fastened. I wish you well, and happy flying, my friends.